We be live.
It's happening.
It's
I feel like I say that every time.
Yes.
Hello,
That's good.
everyone.
Ghost Penny's here saying hello, loves.
Happy
Hi.
Thursday.
Blank name is here saying hi. Al-Uza Akbar is here. Al-Uza Akbar. This is rebellion against her father, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you? Okay, yeah, Akbar. Kenji is here. Also, we already have our question. Okay, we'll answer that soon. Ghost Bunny has a question as well. Wow, great guys. Usually we have to wait for the question. You guys are like on top of it today. Just all the questions. Oh wait, that's not a question.
That's a compliment to you.
That's a compliment.
Oh, wait. That wasn't a question. Oops.
Oopsie. You're looking good, Armin. Keep up the working out and staying healthy. Thank you. I'm glad somebody appreciates it. A lot of people think I'm being obsessive over health, and but I don't think so. I think if you want to be obsessed over certain things, you might as well make it about something that is beneficial. Anyways,
I wanna ask my question.
All right. First, you wanted to start with your question first. What's your question?
Yes, I had a question for you this week.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a series of questions.
Okay. Let's answer it fast so we can get to the live.
Why did you?
Wait, start from the beginning so our editor could cut because I was talking over you. Okay, start. Hey.
Why did you become a Zionist? And also, one thing about your position as a Zionist that I don't know is that do you believe that there's the place where Jews can go to flee persecution should specifically be the land in between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea? Or from your position, could it be anywhere in the world?
Okay, wow. Your question is like an entire stream. Like I need so should we just we could forget the entire live chat because that will take an hour. No, I'm kidding. I'll give you the short answers. And by the way, your question was also the first question of today. I'll give you the short answers. If people want, I could do an entire live stream on this, right? So why are you a Zionist? I went to Israel. My understanding of Zionism changed after talking to a lot of self-proclaimed Zionists, and I realized that the definition of Zionism is a bit more flexible than I anticipated, right? And based on some of the definition of Zionism, I realized that I am a Zionist, and so given that based on those definitions of Zionism, I'm a Zionist, I decided to identify as a Zionist, right? And I realized that as long as I consider the country Israel as it worth defending, even if I have some problems with it, even if I want it, there's a lot of things about it that I want to change, even though I'm against people who are governing it right now, even though I'm against a lot of its policies, even though I'm against the trends and the influence of ultra-Orthodox Judaism and far-right nationalism in politics, even though I'm against all of that, in fact, because I'm against all of that, because I care about Israel enough to be against all of that, in fact, I want to defend Israel against all her enemies, and the things that I just listed are her number one enemies, mm-hmm. right? Because I think Israel is worth defending, and also, even though I'm against the settlements in the West Bank, and even though I'm against human rights violations of Israel, right? Even though I'm against the fight against secularism in Israel, even though I'm against all of those things, I think Israel deserves defending against all her enemies, and her number one enemy is far-right nationalism and ultra Judaism as a whole, right? So as a defender, as a person who wants Israel to progress and survive and be liberated from these far right elements, and I do believe Israel should be able to defend itself. For that reason, I consider myself Zionist, right? So what was the second question?
Well, do you think this state where Jewish people can go to flee persecution, does it specifically have to be
It didn't have to be
in
but now
between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea?
well, now it's not. It's too late to change that, right?
Okay, so yeah.
Wait, originally it didn't. Originally it could have been a bit different place, and hindsight is 2020. I mean, here's the thing: it would have been better if it was a different place, but it would have been difficult to get support for a different place. So maybe, yes, it would have been better if it was a different place, but maybe it wouldn't have happened if it was a different place. And honestly, like the issue, I think now that I think about it more, is not necessarily with the place. It's more about the process in which it happened, right? Like if the Jews more, I mean, I do think that if the Jews, when they came to that area, if they came in to live with the Arabs rather than segregate themselves from the Arabs, I think the environment at that time in that area would have led to a more friendly side by side sharing of the land. I think the direction the things went when people decided to segregate, here's the Jews, here the Arabs, let's take this is more Jewish land. I think if they went with, because at the beginning the hostility against them wasn't that much when they went there. In fact, they lived with each other back then without that much, like compared to all the everywhere else in the world. That seemed like a very good place for the Jews to go. And I think if they went there and if they bought land and they had less hostile ways of kicking people out of their homes and just be like, just keep on being neighbors with the Arabs instead of like, hey, these are the Jewish areas, and then eventually use their numbers as a way to make it this like, oh, this is now a Jewish land, maybe it would have become a closer Arab and Jews living side by side, and the process of them migrating there would just involve more and more voluntarily transactions between Arabs and Jews, right? Again, this is very, very optimistic view of it, and it's very easy to say these things sitting many years after and judging it like that, but that's what I think. Okay, so I do also have an opinion about whether or not being a Zionist means if you should defend Israel as an ethno-state or not. And that would, if I start talking about that, we wouldn't get to any of the questions right now. Okay, we could get to that later. Anyway, if somebody does want me to get to that, we could. What I could do is somebody could ask that in the live chat, and we'll get to it. Anyways, so let me see if I need to. Need to go to. Okay, so let's go to the next question. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Here.
Ghost Bunny is asking, how do you stay motivated, or how do you get yourself motivated to start your day? These bills gotta get paid. Like, I don't know.
That's not a no. I think like I look forward to every day. I just fill my to-do list for the next day with things that I want to do and the things I enjoy doing. So when I go to sleep, I can't wait to get up so I could do those things because I know how exciting my next. Well, the thing is that I made my life so enjoyable that it's hard to go to bed because I'm having so much fun, and I'm, people have alarms to wake up. I have alarms to make sure to go to bed because I don't have any alarms to wake up because I just sleep until I'm done sleeping. But sometimes I wake up and I know that I have to go back to sleep because I haven't gotten enough hours. But it's just so hard because I'm so excited about my breakfast. I'm so excited about my exercise. I'm so excited about the things that I'm going to be reading today, things that I'm going to be listening today, and most importantly, I'm so excited to hang out with Suze, right? So I know, yeah. How is it? How is it so hard not to be motivated? I know, like, today is another day that I get to hang out with Suze and we could talk about things, nerd out about things, right? So it's easy. It's easy to be motivated because I make my days exciting, right? That's why. Yeah, right.
I think, well, for me, where I don't have the same setup as you, coffee. I am so excited to drink my coffee when I wake up. Oh my God, I wish it was just already here for me. Yeah.
All right.
Like give yourself when you wake up something to look forward to in the morning. Like maybe, I don't know. I was gonna say pastry, but Armin would be upset by the sugar involved.
Guys, I'm joking a little bit about how triggered I am. It's a meme that we're doing, but it's bad. It's really bad for you. But it's your body. But is it the thing about people saying that they eat sugar is that it's not going inside my body; it's going inside their body. So, like,
so joke's on you.
Yeah, well, it's not a good joke though. But yeah, okay. All right, there we go. Let's go.
This is a difficult question. If your parents are abusive, should you still say nice things to them when they do something nice for you?
This is very it really, you need more details.
Yeah.
I don't think we could give a generic answer to this. I mean, I don't think, like, first of all, how old are you? What's the nature of the abuse? What is that nice thing? How much is the abusive behavior compared to the nice behavior? It really, like, generally, I actually, no, not generally. I don't think we could answer this because I don't think we could come up with a general answer for this.
Yeah.
It really also depends, like, what do you define abuse? Like, did your mom, like, just raise her voice on you, or are you being physically abused? Like, these are completely different worlds that we're talking about. So I don't know if we could answer that, right? And also, what are your parents dealing with, right? Are they just sadistic, or are they going through so much problems themselves that it's hard for them to keep a healthy mindset about things? And it's maybe you could, like, it really depends on so many things, right? So
Gossam is saying, I've heard from a neurologist that love can be detected in fMRI. Is this true? If so, which lobe is involved?
I have no idea.
Gossam, like, this is not the right question for us. We're not neurologists. I don't know if you can detect love. You can certainly detect arousal in a variety of ways. If so, which lobe is involved? It's not when cognitive experiences arise, it's not really that one thing, one feeling, one activity happens in one specific place within the brain. It's that there are several places in the brain acting in conjunctivity with each other that give rise to a cognitive experience. So we call these functional connectivity networks, which are different networks of how different parts of the brain act together for specific things. So my little familiarity would lead me to guess that it's a specific state that arises when you feel a certain way.
Okay, but overall, this is not something.
Yeah, parts of the brain involved would be like the amygdala,
right.
But not completely. Oh, so this is someone coming for you for your Israeli Palestine take. Should we, like, I'll read out the whole thing. Okay.
Okay.
Armin, I listened to your podcast on Israel and Palestine with Ali on secular jihadists. Guys, go check it out. And
Secular Jihadist podcast, search for it. And on
Yes.
YouTube as well. Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I was absolutely shocked to see the mental gymnastics by you to defend Israel.
Okay,
I am
first of
not
all-
sure, but I really think that your defense of an occupying regime and your excuse for its violence comes from your hatred of the Iranian regime, which I get completely. Looking at how you pick and choose the most violent aspects of Palestinians, while conveniently refusing to discuss the same from the Israeli side, who's the occupying force, was very sad.
Okay, first of all, it's so funny how people say I am sorry as if they think that they're going to hurt me by disagreeing with me. I could give less than two craps about how much you disagree with me, right? Like the fact that you think that your disagreement is going to affect me, like you don't need to be sorry. I'm going to be fine. Even if you disagree with everything I'm saying, I'm going to survive. It's all good. Okay. Don't worry about that. Also, I have no idea what you're talking about. I have been holding Israel's human rights violations accountable. You must have been listening to an imaginary conversation. I think maybe you listened to the podcast and then you fell asleep and then you had a dream about a different podcast and then you woke up and you misremembered what I said, because I have gone out of my way to hold Israel responsible for its human rights violation. And also, I think you are overestimating your capabilities at analyzing people's motivations. You have no idea. You don't know me, and you have no idea how I form my opinions. And you think like I don't think you're like a trained psychologist. And you're like, I think because of your experience with the Iranian regime, I think because of this, you're like, you are so full of crap right now. You have no idea what you're talking about. You imagine my position, and you're imagining how I come up with my conclusions, which is completely baseless based on what I'm saying. Most of my opinions is completely in contradiction to many anti-Islam activists that come out of Iran. So you are so full of crap right now, and you have no idea how full of crap you are right now. Sorry, Mirjello. All right.
So you're not gonna respond to the criticism that you are more sympathetic to Israel than Palestine or Palestinians?
Wait, say that again. Question.
You're more sympathetic towards the Israeli state than the Palestinians themselves, I feel like, is the criticism.
No, okay. You're comparing the state with the people right now, which is not a fair comparison, right? Who am I more sympathetic to? The Israeli people and the Palestinian people? I'm sorry, I don't do collectivism. Okay, I don't do collectivism. All right, I don't. I judge people individually, right? And when it comes to defending people, I don't discriminate against one group of people in favor of other people, right? If you're talking about the Israeli state right now, I hate the Likud party. I'm firmly against Netanyahu. I have made that very clear. Very, very clear. I also hate Hamas. I also hate Fatah. I also hate Hezbollah. And I also hate the Islamic State. However, I also recognize that Hamas is a product of the far-right politics in Israel. So which goes completely in contradictory to what Mir Jalal said. I even blame the Israeli government for the existence of Hamas. And this idiot in the live chat is like, why are you defending Israel? Like, you are incapable of listening to my positions if that's what you think right now. God damn it. All right. Like, your listening skills like really suck, Mir Jalal. I'm sorry, like they really suck. Like, you really need to work on it. Yeah, go.
Gossam is asking, have you heard about Babak? How would you say this name, Armin?
Oh yes, god damn, yes. This is like a.
How do you say his name though?
Wait, I need to see the Persian version of it. Forgot his last
name. Horandin.
Let me
got
see the Persian.
killed by his parents. How do you think their beliefs take part in convincing them to kill their 47-year-old son?
I don't think so.
So, for those who
Din.
don't know, there was this. It happened recently. There was this 47-year-old Iranian director who had recently, I don't know how recently, come back to Iran from England, and he was killed and dismembered by his parents who are in their 80s. Which I was reading about it, and the way it went down was grisly. They immediately confessed to it. They had no problem about it. They were thankful that they did it.
I don't think it's very relevant. I think a lot of people are trying to make. See, so here's the thing: these two parents killed their son, which was a famous movie director in Iran, and then now they just realized that they actually had also killed all their other children as well.
What?
Yes. Yeah.
Wait, they killed all their other kids
yeah,
too?
So now because of this, now because of this last one, they realized the missing kids. The reason why they were missing is because the parents killed all their children. Yeah. No. No. Wait. Stop.
I can't deal.
No. But here's the thing, though. I think a lot of people are. This is just a crime that happened in Iran, but because it's in Iran, people are trying to either tie it to Islam. It's not I'm not excusing Islam for being responsible for crimes, but not just because a crime is happening in Iran, it doesn't mean it's because of Islam. I don't see any reason. There's nothing in Islam that allows this. Okay, I'll tell you what you could blame in Islam in relationship to this. Actually, there's something you could blame to Islam. Okay. Also, a lot of people oh, this is the natural effect of living under a regime like this.
What?
I mean, people are trying to somehow blame the regime for this, and really it's really a stretch. Guys, the Islamic Republic of Iran is already criminal enough for you to be able to not try to stretch arguments like this to blame everything on them. Okay, so I don't think you could blame the crime on Islam, but I do think you could blame the lack of punishment on Islam. Okay, the mom is going to get a bigger punishment than the dad, even though the mom was mostly the dad did the killing, and the mom was just a supporting character.
Well, she put stuff in his food to make him go to sleep.
Right. But the dad did the killing, so you would think the dad would get bigger punishment, but the dad wouldn't get the bigger punishment because the dad owns the son. The dad is so the mom doesn't own the son apparently. In Islamically, the dad will get out much earlier than the mom, because in Islam, killing your own children, especially your own daughter, has very little punishment because they are technically yours, right? Technically the dad's. So the mom, even though the mom didn't the mom put the sleeping agent but didn't do the killing, the mom is going to get bigger punishment than the dad, because the dad basically he's going to get out very but people are okay, well, Armin, you can still blame Islam for the crime itself, because a lot of the parents kill their own children knowing that they're going to get out of jail soon, right? For most people that might be correct. For a lot of people that might be correct. A lot of the child killings in Iran is with the calculation I'm willing to do an honor killing and just go to prison for 2 or 3 years. You're supposed to go to prison for 10 years, but maybe on good behavior I could get out for 3 years, but at least it's a good honor killing or something like that. But I don't think these two, they're something else. I don't think they cared about how long they're going to go to prison.
I didn't know about these other kids. They seem like serial killers.
Yeah.
But what they were talking about, I mean, who knows?
We don't know
information. But they accused him of basically being abusive to them. I don't know how much is that true.
Okay, next.
Before the modern state of Israel, who occupied the land, and did they recognize Palestine? History lesson.
What I don't understand what the question is. Before the modern state of Israel, who occupied the land?
I'm assuming before 1948.
Yeah, okay. It was a lot of Arabs, some Christians, and 5% Jews. How far back do you want to go, though? right? Do you want to go? How far back do you want to go? It depends on how back we go. It doesn't really matter though. You have to deal with what the situation is at hand. People are like, this was like, oh, this was the Palestinians, or no, it was like the Jewish state. Oh, if you go back 2,000 years, or no, if you go back 100 years, it doesn't matter. Once you pass one generation of people, you have people that are living there without, and it's not their fault. The sins of the son are not the sins of the father. The people who are living there, they're living there, and whether they're Israeli or Palestinian, it's not their fault that they're there. It was their parents. You could go back and keep judging who's like among their parents and their ancestors whose fault it is that these people are there. But right now the new generation is there, and none of that is their fault. You can't hold them responsible for the crimes of their father. You have to figure out how to live with each other. Keep going back, like holding the Arabs today for what their ancestors did, accountable for what their ancestors did, and holding the Jews in Israel today accountable for what their parents did and what their ancestors did. It makes no sense. Okay, they born there. This is now their home. There's no place for them to go. They're gonna stay there. The Jews that were born in Israel, they have to stay there, and the Arabs that are born in between the Jordan River, I don't know what you want to call it, the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea, they have to stay there as well. You have to learn how to live with each other. There is no other way. And unfortunately, both sides is just like saying, no, the other side has go out. But no, there's no way. You're there. Nobody's going to go anywhere else. Everybody's going to stay there. Learn to live with each other. No, wait. You're muted.
Whoops. This is a good question. Question for Armin from Mr. Piccolo 23. Can you critique more Shia Hadith books like Al-Kafi and... Oh, thank you. My friends believe you're still secretly a Shia doing taqiyya, but as your main focus is Sunni Islam.
Okay, well, here's a question. How do you know your friends are wrong? Maybe they're right. You're assuming that I'm not a Shia and that I have to criticize Shia Hadith to prove your friends wrong. But maybe they're onto something, huh? Maybe they're onto something. Have you thought about that? I bet you didn't think about that, huh?
Why would you say that?
Well, I mean, okay. The thing is that Shia Hadith is not very famous for. The main thing the main thing I say about Shia Islam is this, okay? This is what I say about Shia Islam, okay? If you accept Islam, I agree that Shia Islam is shirk, right? Like the Sunnis have a point when they say that Shia ideology goes against the very essence of Islam, which is Tawheed. So that is the main problem within an Islamic mindset. Shia Islam doesn't make theological sense, right? It makes more. The characters in Shia Islam, it's easier to sympathize with them compared to Sunni Islam. So when it comes to reading the stories, it's like if you forget all the slaves and all the concubines and everything that Ali and Hassan and everybody had, like put that. If you ignore all of that, Ali, Hassan, Hussein, and Fatima are so much easier to sympathize with in their stories than Aisha, Ali, Omar, Abu Bakr. Like their stories are just like they're designed to make you want to oh my God, poor Ali, poor Hussein, poor Fatima, right? Like they're easy to sympathize. But theologically, Sunni Islam has Shia Islam beaten, right? So that's what I would say. But also Sunni Islam has more juicy. Okay, yeah, I think here's the thing. Maybe I'm I actually have the answer for you. I'm lazy. Sunni Hadith has been analyzed so much more than Shia Hadith, so it's easier for us to go find and pick the information and be like, look at this, right? I'm just not motivated enough. Shia Hadith has some really juicy stuff. Okay, maybe I'll look into it. Okay, I'll look into it. Okay.
Well, also, I don't think it's crazy to focus mainly on Sunni Islam when it's the vast majority of sex that is practiced today. There's
right. Like who would
a
watch
wider
that?
market.
Yeah. Anyways, Ya Ali Madad. Show that show that to your like okay, here's the question is like I'm doing taqiyya. How could I be doing taqiyya when I'm so open about the fact that my heart beats for Hussein? Huh? Is that taqiyya? Huh? Yeah. Is that taqiyya? I'm being so transparent right now. How is this taqiyya? Anyways.
Oh my gosh. I was not
All
ready
right.
for my heartbeat.
Okay. You're so slow at picking
I'm just
questions.
waiting for like a good question.
There's so many good ones. You're so picky. Just pick any question. Oh. Adam is saying, can't believe it. Finally found a base Israel, Palestine single take, which made by Wash and actually grounded in reality. See following attached. What do you guys think about it?
There's nothing attached.
There's nothing attached. Anyways, here. Guys, again, see here's the thing. Palestinians didn't rule the land. All Palestinian Jews, Arabs around the land were subjected together under. No, okay. So they were under the Ottoman Empire. We know this. Everybody knows this. Like this is not. It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant, guys. It's irrelevant who was there before. If this was relevant, every single American has to leave. Suze, you have to go. You can't live there. Okay, your ancestors were conquered that land. You have no right to stay there. You have to go. Okay. In fact, most of everybody. Okay, like they have to leave, right? Like you know how many Arabs have to leave their land if this is going to be the standard of who was there first? What about the Arab Empire? Do you want every single Arab that are not from Saudi Arabia to leave and go back to Saudi Arabia? Do you want all of them to go back to Saudi Arabia? They all came from around there. Do you think Saudi Arabia could now hold all the Arabs in the world? It doesn't matter who was there first. They're there now. You have to figure out what to do with the situation at hand. Again, the crimes of the father is not the crime. You guys, a lot of you atheists have biblical values. Like, oh, but they did this, and their ancestors did that, and their ancestors. Who gives a crap? Who gives a crap who was there first? This is a biblical mindset. The crimes of the father being the crimes of the son. It doesn't matter. You have to deal with the people who are there right now. Anyways.
Oh, and Gossam is giving us an update on the Iranian elections, which we were talking about yesterday. Guys, go check out that stream we did for a very detailed analysis. And we were asking, so for those who don't know, Iran's presidential candidates have to be pre-approved by a guardian council that is like half made up of Islamic scholars. And we were asking who of the candidates who had registered had been approved. And Gossam is answering our question. Saying unofficial sources claimed 6 candidates were approved by the Guardian Council, but our beloved Dr. I can never say his name right. Thank you. Is not among them.
Oh, so sad.
It's shocking. It's not at all like how anyone predicted. Do you think there would be any public protest, and should I join them? Well, I think Armin and I both say, we can't make that decision for you.
He's joking.
Oh, okay. Take things too seriously.
No, but just to be safe, no, don't join them. Just in case somebody thinks that we're not joking. And also, do you think there would be a protest? I don't know. I mean, he is the number one. He is the number one candidate. Would have been the number one candidate. That would be interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's actually Qasim. Now that you said it, now I'm thinking about it. But if it happens, I would, interesting prediction. But yeah, I have no idea. You'll see.
This is an interesting question. Chihaya Hayase is saying, mate, do you think Gaddafi's solution of Israelstein, Israel plus Palestine, so basically like a one-state solution, I guess, will help both the Jews and Arabs in the region?
Israelstein. Well, if you're talking about the one-state solution, I think like it's going to happen anyways if things go the way that they're going right now. There's only three options, right? Two-state solution, one-state solution, and the status quo. The status quo is not going to stay like it's not going to be forever. Like it's just not sustainable. I don't know when, but the status quo is going to stop one day, right? The two-state solution has been made close to impossible, but not impossible, but close to impossible because of the settlements. I mean, there's still some chance, but almost impossible, right? The one-state solution could be a great and horrible, depending on how it comes about. All right, and how it comes about is the key phrase, the key point here, the key factor here, right? And the more the status quo stays, and the more the hostility between the people at power sinks into on the people as much as already it has, but if the more it sinks in within the people, the more horrible the one-state solution, the eventual one-state solution is going to look like, right? When Arabs and Jews from the very beginning, if the Jews coming to this land happen in a more peaceful way without hostilities towards the Arabs, the one-state solution would have become something much more easier and less. Again, I want to be careful with YouTube. Less violent eventually, right? But the more the status quo, the more the hostilities remain. If the eventual one-state solution, when it happens, the process of it happening could look very, very, very ugly. And I don't know how ugly, but if what I'm imagining right now in my head reminds me of Rwanda. Okay? And I don't want to think that could happen before the one-state solution, but I'm also scared that it might, right? I'm not saying it will though, like don't quote me on that, right? But I'm just saying that before eventually the one-state solution happen, we need to figure out how to build a bridge between the Jews and Arabs in that region, regardless of what the people at power are doing, so that whenever eventually when the one-state solution happens, we don't get a Rwanda-like scenario happening. Right. All right.
Here's a good question. Thoughts on antinatalism? I find the argument convincing that if I never existed, I can't miss happiness. But if I do exist, I will experience pain. Well, I feel like this is kind of a generalized question, like thoughts on antinatalism. Like antinatalism, I feel like can be several different things, and there are several different arguments. So, what I'm most familiar with are people talking about how having children is unethical because they can't consent to being born. However, that argument never made sense to me because being alive is a prerequisite of giving consent.
Well, that's their point actually, because but actually you just made their point for them actually. Being alive is a prerequisite of being consent, so therefore they couldn't have given consent.
But you but you have to be like
yeah, which is their point. But I think Blank Name is talking about whether or not it is a crime on him to have been born, because the fact that he's experiencing pleasure wouldn't have been missed if he was never alive. But the fact that he's feeling pain can only be achieved while being alive. So he's like, a crime has been committed on me by giving birth to me, right? But the thing is that make him his happiness. All right, here's the thing. I don't know. This is a really individual take. Like you can't judge this for everybody, right? I could just speak for myself. I can't speak for other people. If you are looking at yourself and be like, not existing seems better than what I'm going through right now, okay? But that's you, okay? I'm looking at me and I'm like, no, I like this, okay? I very much like this. I'm happy that I'm alive. I'm happy that I was born. The joys that I'm feeling outweighs the pain that I'm feeling by a wide margin. So I'm very much happy that I'm alive. I cannot. The problem with the argument that you're making, Blank Name, is that you are coming up with a principle that is supposed to apply to everybody, but it really depends on the individual, right? I also want to warn people about, like, I don't think, like, if somebody thinks like, hey, non-existing is actually much better for me than existing, I don't think, like, a lot of people are like, no, you just have the wrong mind frame, and no, you're freaking. No, that actually might be true for some people. Like, you don't get to decide that for them, right? Some people might be like, I prefer not existing. Like, you can't just tell them that they're wrong. Maybe they're not wrong. Maybe actually it's true for them. However, I do be mindful, because a lot of times there are ways that your life could end up being a lot more joy than pain, without actually not existing is not the only way out, right? Many times when people are argued out of and like maybe stopping themselves from living. I'm trying not to use the word because I don't know how YouTube is going to treat that, but they ended up getting to a position where they're happy that they were talked out of it, right? Like, they found, so many people found ways that they got to a position where life ended up being like, oh, I'm so glad that it didn't die because I love life now, right? So
like me.
Yeah, and me too, actually. Anyways, next question. Wait, go back. One more thing. We are not mental health professionals, and if you're experiencing anything, do not take our advice as professional help, and seek, if you're struggling with anything like this, please talk to a professional. We are not professionals. A major disclaimer: do not take our advice as something something to go by. Make sure you talk to a professional. Right. Go next.
Oz Akbar is saying, do you think this channel will be remonetized anytime soon?
We don't know, and actually, we're not going to bring attention to this, because if we do get remonetized, we're not going to celebrate it or highlight it so much, because that would just get us in trouble. Yeah. So next question. But yeah, you will know if it got remonetized, but we won't make a big deal out of it. Yes. Next.
Do you know who Jamal Hardwood is?
No.
Okay, then we won't answer this. This might be up your alley. Mr. Piccolo.
Maybe look at his face. Hold on. Jamal. I'm better with faces than. No, go on.
Mr. Piccolo 23 is asking, do you believe Muslims find the contents of Ibn Hashem's biography of Muhammad, Sahih Bukhari, and Sahih Muslim to be shocking because they were written during the Mu'tazila rule? And then he followed up saying, I ask because the Mu'tazila were notoriously believed that Muhammad was infallible only when receiving divine revelation. Other than that, he was a normal human being capable of committing major and minor sins.
All right, go back to the first one. Okay, first of all, you're assuming Muslims know who Ibn Hisham. Most Muslims know who Ibn Hisham is. You're assuming most Muslims read Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. They do not. And you also assume, shockingly assume, that most Muslims, like even the Muslims who know who Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim is, which is like a minority of them, you assume that they know who the Mu'tazilites are, which they do not. Okay, most of them, the vast majority of Muslims, have no idea what Mu'tazilites even mean. Okay, also, your argument is incorrect, because Mu'tazilites actually were the ones who didn't really emphasize that much on the Hadith. They were a lot of them were very skeptical about the authenticity of the Hadith, and they themselves were really not the Hadith collectors. The people that had the Hadith collectors were the people, and the people who were canonizing the Hadith were mostly in direct opposition to the Mu'tazilites. The Mu'tazilites wanted to many of the rules to be based on reasoning and also influence of Hellenistic ideas, and they saw the people like the Hanbalis, and Ibn Hanbal himself, Imam Ahmad, he was himself a major hadith collector, right? Who was in direct opposition to the Mu'tazilites. He was tortured by them. So they didn't want to the use of these flawed human rationalism to be used as a way to determine what the way of life should be, or how to recognize fiqh or God or theology. And that's why, because the Quran wasn't a complete guide for them, even though the Quran does claim to be a complete guide, it's very obviously not a complete guide. So these were the people who were in direct opposition to Mu'tazilites. They didn't want other sources of influence, whether it's rationalism or Hellenism, to be used to fill in the gap. So that's why they were the ones obsessed with using Muhammad's sunnah, or his way of life, or his saying, to be used as a way to fill in the gap. They were the ones that were trying to either collect or make up hadith as a way to fill in that gap. So the fact that they happened at the same time is not because the Mu'tazilites had a role in the hadith collection. It was because the challenge of Mu'tazilites to the way of the traditional, well, what we now consider the traditionalists, or what we could call them the proto-traditionalists, the challenge of the Mu'tazilites to the proto-traditionalists encouraged the proto-traditionalists to be involved in the hadith collection more aggressively, and that's why it happened at that time. It's not because the Mu'tazilites were involved in the process. They were actually against it. These are simplistic generalizations of what happened. And I know you could always find exception. People are like, oh, Armin, no, look, the traditionalists weren't against reason. Look, they use reason over here. And they'd be like, oh, no, Armin, Mu'tazilites were not in favor of reason. Look, they use scripture and they use hadith over here. Like, yes, of course, the Mu'tazilites were theologians. Like, you feel like, oh, they're not all for... Yeah, I mean, they weren't even the philosophers. They're theologians. What do you expect? Of course, they're not going to be like all for reason, but they just wanted to leave more room for rationality compared to the Hanbalis or that ilk, right? But of course, we're talking about theologians. How much room do you think we have for reason? Anyways, next.
This isn't a question, it's just a cool comment. Archer El Tofa is saying, hi guys, I used to be a conservative Salafi, born and raised in Saudi Arabia. I've been looking into religion over the past 2 years. Finally, I accepted that I am an atheist recently. Thank you guys.
Ah, that's
well,
so
cool,
sweet.
Archer.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
And congratulations to you for keeping an open mind.
Exactly.
Wow, that's very admirable. Very admirable.
Oh shoot, it just jumped. I thought I saw a good question. Lord help me. Okay. Dirty Dancer is saying, if Israel is responsible for the rise of Hamas, who is responsible for the rise of Likud?
Hamas. By the way, guys, when I say they're responsible for it, I'm not suggesting that they're the sole, factor, right? They are a factor, so much so that without it, they probably wouldn't happen. Also, when I say they're responsible for the rise of it, I'm not saying they consciously wanted it to happen. And I also don't say Israel, maybe say like Israeli government, because I don't want to like incriminate the entire Israeli population for something like this, right? Also, like the eventual monster that Hamas became, maybe they didn't envision that, but they did. The groups that eventually became Hamas were actively funded by the Israeli government as a way to combat the PLO, and also as a way to create divide. Here's how messed up the Israeli government was at that time, because they knew that if they were dealing with like a sane Palestinian government, then they would have to actually negotiate, and they didn't want to give in to any demands. So if they have a divided Palestinian government, especially one with radical elements, it's so easy to tell to the world, like, look at these people. You want us to talk to them, right? So it's better for Hamas to be there, so that be like, we don't, okay, like, hey, let's have peace. And like, here's the thing. Let's say I want to act like I'm on the side of like wanting peace, right? But then I actively introduce a psychopath in my opposition's group, and I put them there on purpose, and then I'm like, okay, guys, I'm for peace, let's negotiate. But then I'm like, wow, look at who they have on their side. Really, world? You want me to negotiate with them? Them? And this is how you keep the status quo, right? So I mean, who's responsible for the rise of Likud? Again, Hamas, Hezbollah, Fatah's a lot of Fatah's dumb positions, the Islamic Republic of Iran. I mean, these people need each other. I mean, this is why I keep telling people, like, I know that they don't like each other, but technically or practically, they help each other survive. They need each other, even if they never admit it. Right. Yeah. And I'm not saying they're the same. Okay. I'm not saying they're the same. Okay. And they're like, oh, so Armin, you're saying the same? No. Just because they need each other to survive, that doesn't make them the exact same. God damn it.
Yeah.
Right.
And there were people in the chat basically saying like, oh, when you say that Israel's responsible for Hamas or giving rise to it, like, oh, you're just blaming the victim. Like, that's blaming someone from the harm they caused. It's like, no, they literally funded.
No, they literally, like, I'm not blaming. Well, I am blaming, but I'm not blaming the people that actually have rockets. This is your mind on collectivism, right? When I criticize Israel and you say I'm blaming the victim, it's because you see Israeli people as Israeli government. You don't see the difference between these. You don't see the difference between Likud and Israeli civilians. Okay, guys, I don't even and when I say, like, when I blame Hamas and you say I'm blaming the victim, is because you can't see the difference between Hamas and the Palestinian people. And even if they support them, I don't see the same. Okay, I don't see a Palestinian who votes for Hamas. I don't see them as the same as Hamas. Just because people make bad decisions, that doesn't mean they're responsible. Because people, I mean, they are responsible, but they're not as responsible. And also, people make dumb decisions all the time. That doesn't mean they deserve to be unhappy. That doesn't mean they deserve to be miserable. That doesn't mean they deserve to lose their children. They don't. Okay. So people like, oh, well, Israeli civilians, yeah, well, they voted for Likud. Okay, so people made bad decisions. Does that mean they deserve to have this happen to them? No. Do they not deserve security even if they have bad views? They deserve, people with bad opinions and bad views, they deserve security. Okay, the Palestinians who vote for Hamas, they're victims of their dogma, and they're also victims of the miserable living conditions that they're under. Okay, they vote for Hamas. I forgive them I forgive them. They're the product of the conditions that they're living in. Okay, they still deserve security. They deserve to have rights. They deserve prosperity. They deserve to not live in poverty. They deserve to actually they have the right to self-determination. They have the right to have a government that actually represents them, even if they voted for Hamas. I'm not in a position to judge them. If I lived in those conditions, if I was so like, honestly, if the things that happened to them happened to me, I might have like done worse than what they're just voting for Hamas, right? I forgive people for making bad decisions, having bad views, given the conditions that they're living in, right? I don't forgive Hamas or people that are actually shooting the missiles, but Israeli people and Palestinian people both deserve to be happy, deserve to be secure. And I'm not gonna say that, oh no, Israeli people don't deserve to be happy because by comparing their situation, like don't deserve security by comparing their situation to the Palestinians. No matter how bad the Palestinians' lives are, Israelis do not deserve to live in fear. Even if the fear that they're experiencing is a fraction of what the Palestinians are experiencing, I'm not going to say like, okay, so it's okay for you to not feel secure just because your situation is better than the Palestinians. No, nobody deserves this. Nobody deserves what both Palestinians and Israelis are going through. Anyways.
Yeah. Palestine needs to be liberated from Hamas.
Yes, and Israelis also need to be liberated from Likud.
Yes. Kind of coming on the end of this, interesting. McQueen is saying, I'm an ex-Muslim from Gaza and I still live in Gaza. Hamas is far worse than the world has seen.
Oh, wow. Well, wow. McQueen, I wish I could talk to you. I know it's not safe, so I won't. But I really wish I could talk to you. I'm an ex-Muslim from Gaza and I still live in Gaza. Hamas is worse than the world sees them. I mean, I believe you. But I wish I could ask you so many questions. Is there a way I could like ask you questions? I wonder like if you living next to Palestinians in Gaza who support Hamas, do you forgive them? Do you see them? Do you see why they will make that error? Or do you think like no, it's unforgivable? It's an unforgivable position to support Hamas. And also, what do you mean? Like, I God damn it! I wish I could. Any ex-Muslims from Gaza, if they want to talk to us, and also I wish I wanted to know your views on the Israeli government, on the Israeli people, on the situation that is happening right now, guys. If you're an ex-Muslim if you're an atheist from anywhere in Palestine or anywhere in Israel, please contact us. At which email should we give them?
There's a way that you can contact us through the website.
Just go to atheistrepublic.com on our contact page. You could email us there. We will love to. If it's safe, only if it's safe, please don't put yourself at any risk. We would love. Oh wait, McQueen is saying you can email me. Well, hey,
McQueen, don't put your email here.
Don't put your email here. I'm just going to tell you our email. info@atheistrepublic. No, info@atheistrepublic.com.
Yes.
Correct? All right, info@atheistrepublic.com. Please email us. We would love to talk to you.
Bud has kind of a funny question. Is Ramadan rage real? It's rumored that in Saudi Arabia, they have to increase their police and military presence by 400% to curb hot tempers flying around. Does Ramadan rage happen in Iran as well?
Well, I don't know if this is true. I just know that this was true anecdotally about the people I met. Like I could only talk anecdotes, which is not a good way of judging this. So I don't know if this rumor is correct. But a lot of people who are fasting, I remember people telling me like, "Don't talk to me. I'm hungry. Don't talk to me. I'm fasting. I'm not in the mood. I'm like, sorry if I'm like reacting. Like, yeah, this is not about. People being hungry is just this is normal for everybody who's hungry. It's not necessarily a Ramadan thing, right? It's a starving thing, right? Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. So I don't know if a 400 per
increase.
I think that's an exaggeration. That sounds like a made up number, but I wouldn't be surprised if people are harder to deal with during Ramadan.
I would be a terrible person during Ramadan. I am not good when I'm hungry. Like, the world should be glad that I was not a Muslim and never fasted, because it would be a nightmare.
Thinking as if it's unforgivable, choosing the Hamas will only perpetuate the situation. Should both realize each other's concerns and needs. Hey, yeah, I agree with that. That's a good one. That's a good comment. Wait, hold on. I feel like the support for Gazans to Hamas comes directly from the extremely anti-Semitism promoted by them. Here's the thing, my queen. I think it's a cycle, right? Like, there are Muslims in other parts of the world who are not this anti-Semitic. Okay, I think when people are hurt by one tiny, can you mute me? I'm hearing echo. But I think if some people are hurt by a tiny fraction of a bigger group of people, it's easy for them to collectively blame that entire group of people. And if you have a dogma that feeds into that, then that dogma, that hateful part of that dogma will be used and highlighted more. So I'm not excusing. Islam has definitely a major influence on anti-Semitic views in Gaza, but it by itself is not an and the only factor, right? Radicalism grows fast when you have a mix of a dogmatic ideology like Islam plus very desperate conditions. And again, this is not to take accountability away for such horrible views, right? You shouldn't excuse such horrible views. Explaining horrible views like that is not the same as excusing it. But when you explain horrible views like that, that shows that beyond the people who have them, there are other people who are responsible for these views growing. The people who made those conditions possible are also responsible in those views growing. And you mentioning that the people who made those living conditions possible have some responsibility in these views growing. If you say that, you're not saying that the people who have those views are not responsible as well, right? Acknowledging the responsibility of other people, right? Like the Likud party for creating such conditions for people for the people who live in Gaza. Acknowledging their responsibility is not dismissing the responsibility of the people who have those views. I hope I made that's pretty clear.
Do you want to answer this question? Chihaya is saying, what would your advice be to people who live closeted lives as atheists and want to escape to freedom? I think it depends heavily on individual circumstances, and where you are. So for example, if you're an activist, things would be very different for you versus someone who just wants a better quality of life, in terms of what routes you could use to try to get residency in a different country. There are a lot of people, very understandably, like, don't interpret this as me thinking that this is in any way like a wrong impulse to have, who are not actively under imminent threat of danger, but they just live in a very conservative, like not very, or a very authoritarian country, or maybe there's corruption in the police. Like, it could be over a lot of stuff, but you specifically as an individual are not being targeted. I don't recommend that you try to apply for like asylum or refugee stories.
Wait.
Or not stories. programs. I don't know.
Okay, no, I do think we need to separate different things here.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, do you want to finish before I talk? Or
Well, yeah. So, what is available to you as a persecuted activist or like journalist when you have documented threat of specific and imminent threats of danger against you? Like, you could go down a very different path versus someone who is just a normal person but just doesn't like the country they live in.
Okay, let me actually try to separate these things. We're talking about freedom from what? When you say freedom from what? Freedom from your country, freedom from your family, freedom from sorry, from the government, or from the community, or from your family. Okay, freedom from your all three of these. Freedom. And by the way, say I know you're not an expert, so no need for a disclaimer. I will give you a disclaimer because I have to give you a disclaimer because you're not the only person who doesn't know this. Make sure you get legal and psychological advice from actual experts. Everything we say, take it with a grain of salt because we're not experts. So just because you say you don't need a disclaimer doesn't mean that we shouldn't give a disclaimer. But yes, so all three of these, freedom from your family or your community or your government, I think the main thing that could help you with all three of them is making sure you have an independent source of funds, and also source of funding. It's better, in my opinion, if it's not tied to a location. So if you could find jobs that you could do online, learning a certain skill sets that you could learn on YouTube. You don't need to pay for courses. Most of the things you need to learn, there's a YouTube videos on them, like whether it's drawing, whether it's like Photoshop, web design, SEO, programming, whatever it is. Animation is really good. You can learn it on YouTube, and then start selling your services on places like Fiverr or Upwork. And that means that you are your own boss and you become mobile, and you could do it wherever. And you could also take courses on YouTube on how to sell you could first learn some skills, and also you could learn how to sell your skills, right? Like that's another talent yourself that you could also learn on YouTube as well. And so not being relying on your parents for funding, and making sure that you have a funding that wherever you have internet access, you could use that as a way to get money. That becomes the main sources of getting independence from all three of these. When it comes to your community or your government, one thing I advise, first of all, yes, there's two separate things that people mix. Migration and asylum is like economic migration and asylum are not two different things. Most people should not go for asylum because most people are not in immediate threat of violence. And if you're not in an immediate threat of violence, then you using the asylum system is you taking that spot away from somebody that needs it more than you. Okay, so do not use the asylum process unless you are in extremely great danger, immediate danger. Okay, because other people need that right now. Do not do that. When it comes to migration, I think a lot of people who are trying to get out of Islamic countries, they have their mind set on North America or Western European countries, and to me that means that you are just looking for a certain lifestyle rather than just freedom. Because if you wanted freedom, there are many more countries that are easier to get to and that will guarantee your freedom. And you don't honestly, and given that the jobs that I'm suggesting are online jobs, you have better lifestyles in less expensive countries. Don't go living in United States or Canada or United Kingdom or Germany, where you could go live in Thailand, for example. I don't know where, or Bhutan.
Like a king.
Yeah, and with an online job, with the money that you're making online, you would be able to live a much better lifestyle in those countries because things are cheaper. And those countries, you wouldn't have to worry about being an ex-Muslim in those countries anyway. Stop focusing on France, Germany, United Kingdom, Canada, United States. There are many other countries that are easier to get to, and you will be able to support yourself more easily with an online job. Okay.
Yes, you explained what I was trying to say with a lot more clarity because I guess my words were failing me.
No.
I was like, thank you. That's what I was trying to say. Well, we've been going over an hour.
Wait,
That flew by.
I just wanted to do Puya. Puya said something.
Oh,
Sorry,
he
guys.
was talking about the Ramadan rage again.
Oh, okay. That
It
wasn't
was
a question.
hilarious. No,
Okay.
he was saying that in Iran there was a case of fighting during Ramadan and something like the police. Okay, here it is. On the topic of Ramadan rage, back in Iran one time, there was a fight in the street, and when someone called the police, they literally said, "Let them sort it out. The officers are fasting."
That's funny. Oh, mama, I'm not gonna read your question because YouTube might think we're saying it, and they might like
Not
strike us
like
down.
it at
Not
all.
like it. Yeah. So I'm not gonna read that, oh mama. Maybe I'll just leave it on the screen. Yeah, we can read that. Sorry. All right. Yes, guys, look at, I don't know. Again, if I said Thailand because it just came out of my mind, like I'm not saying go to Thailand, okay? I said Bhutan, I said Thailand. I'm not recommending any country. That's not I'm just saying widen your perspective.
Options. Don't close yourself off to things that might actually be better for you in the long term financially for an idea of what you think like escaping your country is going to be like.
Yeah. Also, like Germany and Canada and United States are not as awesome as you think. The life is not, yes, you're going to be safe, but with how expensive things are you're going to be basically living in like such a tiny place that you're going to miss home very fast. Okay. The freedom that you're looking for, as long as it's not an Islamic country, you're going to get it. It doesn't have to be the top tier countries that been advertised to you as like the places to be. They're actually not that better. You're going to have much better lifestyles in many other countries, right?
And it's actually a good way to figure out who's actually serious.
Yes.
About leaving.
Yeah, exactly. If somebody comes in like, oh, I'm in danger, I want to leave, and we're like, okay, let's look at it. Let's look at getting you to Bhutan. And like, no, I want to go to Germany.
Eastern Europe.
Or Eastern Europe, yeah. Or like, no, I want to go to the United States. I'm like, you're not actually in danger, are you? You're just trying to get to one of these countries. Yeah, right. Anyways.
Which I'm not saying that migrating for economic reasons or just quality of life is wrong. Just
it's not
use
wrong.
appropriate routes to get there.
If you really want to go to United States or Canada, that's okay. Don't use the asylum system. That's not for you. That's not for you. If you just like, I just want to live in Canada, that's where I want to go. Okay, go through the immigration process. And if you can't, tough.
And do more research on the cost of living.
Yes, don't use the asylum process. That's not for you. That's for people that are about to die. Anyways. All right, guys.
Well, on that note.
Yes. All right, guys. Sorry, I know there's more questions, but we were supposed to keep this under an hour, but we will do this again next week. So
well, and actually, if you're just looking for Armin's attention, like who's this Susanna girl? Ugh, no, you're doing a Q&A for secular jihadists tomorrow, correct?
Yes.
So yeah,
and also our patrons could send me questions on Patreon as well. So if you're a patron, you could So if you're a patron, you could just message me there as well. I'll read those. All right. Okay, guys. Thank you. This was fun. Bye. Oh, subscribe to our newsletter. Link in the description.
I was like, is he gonna say it?
For free? Blasphemous art for free. Our beautiful, gorgeous, sexy blasphemous art is available to free. It's too good. As soon as you become a newsletter subscriber, you're gonna be like, what the hell? Why are they giving us this art for free? Every week we send you new blasphemous art, and it's available to all our newsletter subscribers for free. And you will think like I'm pretty sure all our subscribers are like, they're gonna email us like stop, this is too good, you're spoiling us. Okay, the newsletter subscribers, they're gonna have to message us back. Like I genuinely think they're selfish, Susie, because none of them are emailing us back saying like, why are you doing this? You're so treating us too well.
More people to join the newsletter to reply. Thank you.
Why are you this good to us? Why are you sending us all this juicy, sexy, blasphemous art for free? You're doing too much. This is too good. We're having too much fun. why is this all free? This should not be free. This is a crime. This should be legal. It should be legal that all this art is for free. Okay? If you don't know what I'm talking about, subscribe to our newsletter. Get our art for free. Subscribe. Okay, bye.
Bye.